Alright, draft physics video, another one. Partially comments and then maybe some pictures or something, so I guess I'll have to hold the camera. A lot of work. Anyway, this idiot, Crystal Man, flat earth crap, just way too stupid. You're just demonstrating that you're hostile to being anything like a decent human. I mean, there's just no ground at all to stand on. It's just truther on heroin. It's just too fucking stupid. So yes, you're blocked. In second place, for too stupid, I don't know what this is. I don't know. Mr. Nigster? Yeah, I don't know. That sounds like somebody playing games. Anyway, hi sir, stumbled upon your video. Question if you blah 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 blah. What about the D-wave quantum computer stuff? And then they say, supposedly accessing these dimensions to solve problems. They say Google and NSA have these computers. Where's your evidence for any of that nonsense? Obviously it hasn't been on the news. Obviously you're just a waste of time also. Goodbye. I'm so sick of these people. Alright, so this is a good one by Superior Mind, because it gets on the subject. Yes, thank you. People should be on the subject, but I'll draw the picture one more time real quickly. They claim the laser would need to be pointed backward 45 degrees to release photons perpendicular to the real universe, since the observer relative perpendicular release apparently results in forward 45-degree release in reality. And regardless, and if they did that, the outside observer is going to see the light move forward. So again, we still have to deal with the fact that the light has to go forward to the future, and it has to get to that future location that's a further distance away in the same amount of time it would take to go perpendicular. And it can't do it in the same amount of time without going faster than the speed of light. Therefore, it's a paradox, therefore it's silly. And why are we accepting these silly paradoxes? Just so they can preserve some kind of made-up notion that because teacups and tennis balls behave certain ways on trains, we can declare all physics as like tennis balls and teacups. No. Again, the obvious difference. In real physics, there's things like light that move constant speeds no matter what they're on or what they're doing. They can't do anything else but go one speed, move a certain amount of distance in a certain amount of time, period. Anyway. But do not cite clear evidence anywhere that this is actually what happens. All an inertial frame seems to suggest is to ignore the true vector of the motion in favor of the moving observer's measurement, so it would be more accurate to clarify it as observer relative measurement. Well, that's pretty much all this frame crap is for. It's just crap for observers. It doesn't have anything to do with describing exactly what physical things are doing in the physical universe. It's just about clouds. Clouds. What does it seem like? Or something. If angles are skewed, i.e. 45 degrees, then that would stand to reason that the forces comprising the material would also be highly skewed in the direction of the motion, i.e. squished and stretched in the direction of the motion, to provide constant skewed trajectory. Yes, if that's actually true, the unit vectors of force, momentum, must add up by some mechanism, which brings us to the school of fish analogy, swimming mostly in one direction, and thus slowing function of matter. Well, the fact that movement by a school of fish, if I put one more fish in, that doesn't mean the whole school moves one fish forward. It means that one fish has to divide all of its movement to all the other fish and just move them a little tiny bit. Because they all have to move. So yeah, that's how force works. From the real universe perspective, then, the emitter was never emitting perpendicular in this scenario, and thus you'd oddly need to aim it backwards to get the true perpendicular release. Well, regardless, it really doesn't matter all this bullshit about the fact is that once it's released, light moves in straight lines. So again, wherever you have to aim it to get it to go perpendicular, the point is if you shoot it perpendicularly, it's not going to do what they say, which is go forward. Anyway, still not sure if that makes the case. I'd be more inclined to believe it would emit at lower frequency as a perpendicular, and much higher than 45, and lower yet at 45, I don't know, but still release in the direction of material arrangement. Well, yes, I don't want to get into the whole fake crap that, again, I would argue that emitters, everything is happening at the speed of light, all the material action. I mean material action in the sense that all the action that involves anything in the universe, all those interactions are really happening at the speed of light, and none of them, this idea of momentum and velocity and all this shit, doesn't mean anything really, because those are just replacement fish. And when the fish interact, they always interact at the speed of light. If a fish is going this way and a fish is going this way, they can't, there's no such, all you can change is where they interact. You can't change the intensity of the interaction by adding velocity. Can't add velocity to the interaction. So when a photon hits something, this idea of something's velocity mattering, it can't matter. It just changes the amount of time in which the event happens. So if you're moving towards a bunch of things coming at you, that means you'll have a bunch more happen quicker than they would have happened, right? If I'm moving into them, that means they'll hit me quicker. The frequency will be narrowed, the impact, the time between impacts will decrease if I run towards a guy shooting bullets at me. If I run away from him shooting bullets at me, I'll decrease the time scale that the bullets hit me in. So all you can do is change how much time is involved in the amount of energy being expended, but it's still always the same amount of energy. The bullets are the energy. Alright, so back to this stupid time dilation. I'll just make it as simple as possible. There's two surfaces. One surface is emitting. One surface has a hole in it. Okay, they're both moving half the speed of light, and we'll just say that away. So they're both going that away. They're moving half the speed of light that away. The emitter emits a photon going this way, okay, and it's one photon. Boom. It's going to go this way, and as it goes this way, the target is going to move here. And the time it takes this photon to get to this surface, the hole will be here now. And they argue that somehow this photon travels this path, which is obviously longer, and if it doesn't go faster than the speed of light, when it gets here, the hole will have moved. So this is where it has to be in the same amount of time as light would get here. So in the same amount of time that it took light to go this distance, light has to travel this distance. And if it takes any longer, the hole will move, and it will miss the hole. So their theory is incompatible with known physics. The only way this can happen is light has to travel faster than the speed of light to get to this location in time. So their theory is bullshit. The light doesn't get through the hole, the light falls and hits the wall behind the hole. That's the reality, because the target's moving and the light doesn't. The true principle is the speed of light is the same, okay, regardless of the frame. So that's the way they say it. And if you take that seriously, I'm arguing in defense of that principle. You can't fuck with the speed of light. You can't make light go more distance in the same amount of time. You can't do that. You're violating your own principle here. The principle wasn't that the observer sees. No, the principle was a statement about what happens. And what happens is there's the conservation of the speed of light. You can't challenge it unless you have extraordinary evidence demonstrating it. And you don't have any evidence at all demonstrating anything moving faster than the speed of light. Therefore, your photon, by your own theory, cannot possibly do what you say it does. All right. Yeah, that's enough on that. So Piro did a video on momentum and vectors as if we're crazy for pointing this out. Like I said the hypotenuse. So clearly he's pointing out how, well, some people think that velocity has a component in two directions. And it does when it's accelerating. But the point is this hypotenuse is always going to be the answer. Well, you know, it's better drawn the other way, the graph this way, and you're plotting this much this way, this much this way. You have a point here, and this is your line. But this line will always, this is a right angle. Right angle triangle means these angles here have to add up to less than 90 degrees. So you're fucked. This will always be a longer line. And you can't do what you claim happens. You can't have stuff moving and do that longer line in the same amount of time as without something moving at constant speed. You can't do that. Alright, so I've been over it. Alright, and so I'll get to the second half of this bullshit, where again we're back to this photon argument. I guess I might as well do it now. Understanding what's happening when electrons are popped out of orbits. So sort of understand that you can understand the magnetic force. So everybody's seen magnets, right? I don't have to show you a magnet, do I? And I could put a ball bearing on top of a magnet. And I could show you how if I start at one end, it'll roll back and forth and dampen. And I can show you how there's a certain amount of energy that'll knock the ball bearing off the magnet. So a certain amount of momentum will liberate it from its magnetic bond. And the same thing's happening with electrons. And you can sort of visualize that as being a hole that it's in. And what Einstein demonstrated with the photoelectric effect was, so you could hit this stuff with infrared light all day long. You know, so that's light with a bigger separation. And here's ultraviolet light. Okay? So in the same amount of time, this is time, you get 2 tons of infrared and you get 3 tons of ultraviolet. So it's more bullets by a time sample. So if you only sample it by time with the light switch always on, the blue is always going to have more bullets. But if you just count the bullets, this is the energy. This energy equals this energy. It's 2 tons worth of energy. Alright, so anyway, if you hit this with infrared, you can hit it all day long, and what happens is the ball moves up, and before the second one comes down, the ball moves back. So in a sense, infrared radiation is telling you the tension strength of the electron. It's basically telling you that at 800 nanometers, you know, the distance of an infrared frequency, the electron has time to move back to its location, so that the strength of its magnetic pole, that's how strong it is. Because the idea is so this distance could be like 400 nanometers, you could say. You know, just to make this simple. So if we said this distance was 400 nanometers, you could argue that this is coming in hitting with 800 between the 2 strokes. I think I said this wrong. Yeah, this would be, so you could say this would be 800. But by the time 400 would be good. Well, anyway, the argument is that you can hit it and you'll get it to roll up this hill by the first ton, but it just doesn't make it over the hill. And then it rolls back before the second ton gets there. And so it just keeps hitting it, knocking it up, putting it, and it has time to go back again. And And the less high it hits it, the easier it is for it to go back. It's a shorter amount of distance. But if I hit it with ultraviolet light, what's going to happen is the first one will hit and get up to this level, and the second one shows up. Obviously, this is just an illustration, but the light would hit it. You know, it would bounce off of here, hit it again, and it knocks it over the edge. So because the bullets come fast, it doesn't have time to fall back into the hole, and so then it can be knocked out and liberated. That's what Einstein pointed out. Now, that's not saying that higher frequency is higher energy. That's saying that electrons, okay, have a disposition that makes them more vulnerable to energy at a certain frequency. And that's what we see in everything that happens. Obviously, everything is vulnerable to different frequencies of light, and they radiate light because of it. I can shine ultraviolet light on different things. You can shine it on scorpions, and they'll glow in the dark. You know, they'll glow extra, they'll be extra reflective if you shine ultraviolet light on them, because the chemistry is sensitive to it. It's not because it has more energy, it's because the electrons are more sensitive. All right, that's probably enough of this explanation. But they don't have evidence that there's anything associated with momentum and frequency. Frequency isn't something's momentum. Something's momentum is what it's actually, its mass and the speed it's traveling at. These little tons are the things that have the momentum. The frequency isn't the momentum. Frequency is frequency. It's how many times something hits in an amount of time. That's what frequency is. It's not speed. We know what the speed is, constant. We know the ultraviolet tons are moving just as fast as the infrared tons. The difference is you're firing more per second. All right. Yeah, that's enough of that. All right. Back to the idiots. So the wind asshole, who will be done here because, yeah, he's just an idiot. Not exactly the same, he says, but this happens all the time with neutrinos in particle accelerators. So again, particle accelerators where they can't see anything that happens in a particle accelerator. I mean, cloud chambers aren't, they aren't a photograph of an event in any sense of the word. They're tracings through mediums. So I don't know what his evidence is of neutrinos inside the accelerator, how they would even in the first place identify such a thing, and then measure the volume of them in an atmosphere where they're pumping energy, that is magnetism, a lot of it, into this chamber to force things to move. So how would you distinguish the residue of this energy you're pumping in from what you're seeing at the end of the tunnel? And so this is the whole problem with physics, is that my argument has been from the very beginning is that's why they create all these other particles in the first place, is they're saying that, okay, say there's an electron and it doesn't have anything moving it or pushing it at the moment. It just has its negative charge. But what if I hit it with negative charge, that is the black little quanta from another electron, and it's moving? These are still connected to it till it slows down. It has to absorb the impact of this force. And this environment has to take away that momentum over time. So if you alter this environment, you might get a particle that goes this way, and so they'll call that something else. And if they get one that goes this way, they'll call that something else. So anything that moves differently, they'll say this is a different thing because of it. And if this electron disappears and all you have is this force, they'll consider that an antiparticle. So if I have 3 electrons bound to each other, you know, by this force, and I pull this electron out, they'll say that because these 6 things spread out more now, because of that absence, they'll call that an antiparticle. They'll call this weakness in the force an antiparticle. a neutrino or some other bullshit titled, labeled crap. But again, so you're not citing anything called evidence, you're just claiming there is this volume of evidence of these great photographs they took inside the accelerator. Well, says you, I don't buy it. Okay, so enough of that. So John Reynolds, who is quickly becoming an asshole, which, you know, fine. Inertial frames are so simple to understand. No, they're paradoxically stupid and idiotic when you pretend that you can just do this framing crap, right? Just create a frame and go 40 miles an hour in your frame. And then put that frame inside of a frame, go 40 miles an hour in that frame. And then put that in a frame and go 40 miles an hour in that frame. And don't consider in any of these frames, okay, that you can't make something going a constant speed. You can't keep adding 40 miles an hour to something going a constant speed. So again, this frame crap is just crap. It's useless in the real universe for anybody who wants to know the truth. And because there is one thing moving a constant speed, it doesn't apply to that one thing. And you're attempting to break the one thing that is a measurement of time in the universe. The speed of light. The constant that makes time mean something. Alright. But you're still getting it wrong. Fuck you. Why is that? Question mark. I'm not interested. Is it because you're a liar? No, it's because you're full of shit. Your people are the ones who pretend, okay, that it's not a longer distance to go into the future. They keep pretending this line, this going this way, is the same distance as going this way. And it can't be. It never will be. It's just complete bullshit. And there's no hole here if you go slower. The hole is here if you go slow. Can't happen. It's a paradox and it's stupid. I even have to argue it. You keep saying, no, he's making an argument, but it's hard to do that against someone who makes one straw man, fuck you, after another. You know, you're the one with these unaccountable claims of your physics that you don't demonstrate. I've shown physicists making a mockery of experimental facts. I mean, like, you might as well not even do the experiment because they're not going to describe it accurately. I would have liked to get to the point of actually having discussion, but every argument needs to begin with two opposing views taken up by two opposing sides. No, you can make an argument presenting evidence. I'm saying why there's no reasoning behind the creation of inertial frames, but a kind of physics bravado, a kind of arrogance, where they just decided because, yeah, teacups and me, when we're sitting on a train, are going the same speed, and yeah, that's really cool. And so let's make a rule about it. There was no need to make a rule. None whatsoever. And especially in the circumstance where something's moving a constant speed. Because you can't make your frame fuck with that. The whole idea, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. We don't know what's adding or removing velocity from us, right? I mean, I could run that way, and the fact could be is that I'm already moving 500 miles an hour that way, and so I wouldn't really be gaining velocity that way. I'd be losing velocity that way, that kind of thing. What your absolute velocity is in 3 dimensions, we can't know. But the fact that there is one is what you're trying to break. The idea that there is such a thing as not having any velocity, and there is such a thing as having a maximum velocity, the speed of light. That ruler you're trying to break with this stupid frame crap of relativity. There is no relativity. You do possess a momentum vector that's absolute. Whether you do this friendly frame thing or not. This, you know, the fact that you can say I'm relative. I mean, you can say 5 on a stick that has 10 notches in it. You can say 5 is more relative to 4 than it is to 6. But you know that there's an absolute stick. And there's only so much speed to be given away. So you can't use this relativity to say I'm going 40 miles an hour in this frame, and then I'm going another 400 miles an hour in this frame. I'm going 4 zillion miles an hour in this frame, and 4 trillion miles an hour in this frame. Because guess what? You make enough of those stupid, idiotic frames, all of a sudden you're going faster than the speed of light. Because you don't have any rules telling your frames that they can't keep adding more and more velocity to you. So all I do is put a frame inside a frame inside a frame. So I just put the 2 people sitting in the bus on a train, right? And the bus is going 70 miles an hour down the train, you know, flatbed on a train. And I make the train go 700 miles an hour. And then I put that 700 mile an hour train on a boat going, you know, unrealistically, but it's a flying boat, you know, an airboat. And it's going, say, 80,000 miles an hour, and I can just put, you know, I just keep framing everything. And how do you know when, oh wait a minute, I just picked up so much velocity in one direction, I'm actually going faster than the speed of light? You don't have a rule to fix it once you break it. It's just a stupid notion. It doesn't mean anything in physics. It's not a law. It's not anything they should have ever speculated about. There was no reason to say, gee, because, you know, we can throw a baseball back and forth inside a bus, therefore we need to make a rule that every time you're ever throwing something back and forth with each other, it's some sort of relative crap. No, it's not a relative crap. The baseball's moving with you and has a velocity, and it can't go faster than the speed of light. And the speed of light can't be broken. Alright, well, that's enough of it. So, fuck you. There's no straw man in my arguments, asshole. Where's the straw man, asshole? Is there a straw man in this argument? Is there a straw man argument in this argument? Is there a straw man argument in this frame argument? There's no straw mans here. These are the things you're arguing are the facts, and I'm arguing why they can't be the facts. Why they don't fit not only the evidence, but they are contradictory to their own principles. To your own principles, which you've established as unassailable constants of the universe. Alright, I would have liked to get to the point of actually having a discussion, but every argument needs to be going 2 opposing views taken up by 2 opposing sides. You're not allowed to decide for us what we're defending. Well, I'm just saying that if there's going to be a rational course, I'm defending a theory of my own, and that's my agenda. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to have some arbitrary, anything goes bullshit conversation with you jackasses. I don't find you interesting or and any reason why I want to even have any involvement with you. I'm just defending a rational theory. That's why I'm here. And as soon as that's done, I'd be done with this fucking idiotic inane conversation because I hate your fucking cunt guts. You fucking raggy pieces of shit. Alright. Fuck you. This isn't entertainment, shithead. I don't think you understand that. Yeah, I don't think you understand my purpose is not to have some sort of for the sake of argument. So why can't you at least try to describe what post-Galilean physics says about inertial frames and what they mean? I've already pointed out what they're just a fucking idiotic misrepresentation of reality in the sense that you've established this stupid frame idea without recognizing that you can't violate the speed of light. Again, that holds tons together. What holds tons together? So again, why should I have to answer that question? What holds bent space together? Where is bent space, by the way? What's bent space made out of? I mean, I can ask you 7 zillion questions about bent space. Where's dark matter? What's it made out of? Just dark matter? yeah, invisible matter that has gravity, but nothing else. How is it that it's possible that it can't reflect energy but yet it can absorb it? Isn't that kind of nonsensical? How exactly does it do that? Oh, you don't have any. I've answered your question. I don't have to hold anything together, as I've already explained. It's all made out of tons, and the only thing that makes matter different is when the tons are in matter, they're close enough together, they're stuck to each other. Now, I gave you one possible way to stick them together, but there's probably lots of different ways they could stick together, just merely because of their shape. If they were arrows, for example, you could stick 4 arrows into a square, and you'd have a square with 4 little arrows, and the 4 arrows couldn't go anywhere. What holds them together is they're going in opposite directions, and they're perfectly stuck into each other. So they're trying to go the speed of light. So this one moves a little bit, and then this one moves a little bit, and this one moves a little bit, and this one moves, and so it's like the Earth. It's like the Earthling standing on the Earth. He's still moving. He's still accelerating, even though he's not moving, because the little bits are still accelerating, and the force is going right through him and hitting the ground and actually pushing the ground down, because I'm actually still accelerating. Is that an explanation or not? Fuck you. Fuck you. Obnoxious asswipe. Alright, it's just a totally uninteresting question. Totally uninteresting to the physics. Totally irrelevant to the theory. Means absolutely nothing. It's just a statement of fact. This is how they behave. I reduced physics to like 5 fucking premises. And this is what these cunts do. I've taken all the nonsense out. All the fucking bullshit. All the quirks, all the half charge, all the 3/4 spin, blah blah, all that shit goes away. No more of that nonsense. And giving you this simple thing, alright? 2 configurations of polarization, 1 constant speed, and what else? And the difference between the force bit and the matter bit. There, 4 facts founding the whole thing, and that's too much for you. Oh, well, the perpendicular reflection. 2 reflections. Red on red, it's a straight reflection. Red on black, it's perpendicular. And vice versa. That's it. 5 axioms. And here you are complaining. Saying, no, I can't establish those as just rules. They need no explanation. They're just the facts. The speed of light is a fact. It's silly to ask, why does light go the speed of light? No, that's what it does. Rule. End of it. It's not interesting physics, because you're never going to find the answer to that. You're just such a cunt to ask questions like that. So why can't you at least try to describe what post-Galilean physics says about inertial frames? Again, what holds tons together? Nothing. That's right. Tons that are force are free. And he says no force does that. No, it's exactly what all the forces do. There's no tons held together when the virtual photons create electricity in a conductor because a magnet is moving. Those tons aren't held together. They're all free rays of energy that go into the conductor and move the electrons. The light bulb. There's nothing holding the little rays of light together. They're individual tons. There's no evidence that if I move 1 photon, all the rest of them go that way. No evidence whatsoever. So what are you even talking about, you stinking, lousy, creepy piece of shit? No force does that, question mark. I don't even know what that means. The problem with believing that is that it's an assumption without evidence. So again, there's no evidence value in the fact that it actually explains magnetism and unifies physics. Something everybody was pursuing desperately like it was the most important thing in the universe, the unification theory. It actually creates a unification theory, but that's not evidence that it's probably right. Fuck you. Fuck you. Stupid idiot. What evidence do I need besides the fact that it matches all the evidence? That there isn't any experiment you can point to that demonstrates a fact that's in conflict with what I'm arguing. You can't prove light's a wavy thing. You can't prove it's magnetic, that's for sure. You sure as fuck can't prove it's electrical. So why don't you show me light being electrical? Why don't you show me a photon being magnetic? Go ahead. Put it in a magnetic field and see if you can make it look magnetic. You're the one who just says things, claims them. It's magneticing this way and electricaling this way. Except there's absolutely no evidence that photons ever do anything magnetic or anything electrical. And there's also pretty much no evidence that they do anything gravitational either, yet you claim they do. And yet you don't say they have any gravitational field. So the one place the photons can be moved by, the one force they can be moved by your claim, not mine, gravity, you don't even give it a gravity wave. Doesn't that sound like crap? Sounds like crap to me. Alright, the problem with believing the assumption without evidence. Well, there's tons of evidence is the whole point. It perfectly duplicates gravity. It explains where magnetism comes from. Actually explains the existence of the force and the creation of the force. Something your physics doesn't come close to. Now you claim bent space is just an assumption without evidence. I claim describing gravity, okay, the inverse square rule, by bending a nothing, is just pretty much pussying out. The inverse square rule existed. Newton found that. And Einstein said, well, I can't explain it, so you know what I'll do? I'll just create a fake thing and bend it by the inverse square rule. And we'll call that an answer. That's not an answer to how gravity works. It's just bullshit. Alright. So we are supposed to go with your assumptions because they're special. No. You're not. If you don't see the logic in the argument, I'm saying that you assumed that photons are wavy thingies, alright, and that have a frequency length, so that when a radio wave is, a mile long, that the ton is actually a mile long. Now, that's your assumption, in my opinion. You could have equally assumed that the tons are just individual points in the frequency. They're just bullets. And the bullets are all the same length. And it's just the distance between the bullets that gets really long. So there's a mile between the photons. And it perfectly fits with the way they're produced when the antenna moves. Because it's essentially moving at the timing cycle that would create a mile worth of distance between the tons. Between this motion and this motion. This motion, there'd be a mile at the speed of light. You could travel 1 mile at that vibration speed. And so you're saying that's not circumstantial evidence, that it's probably more reasonable to say they're little tons that are getting thrown off the antenna, rather than saying something stupid like, well, the ton is being manufactured as it vibrates through the whole vibration, and then it peels off the entire antenna and, and then does this bullshit in the magnetic and the electrical blah blah, but it doesn't do anything in the bent space thing. It doesn't have a bent space component. Even though it's moved by gravity, supposedly, by less than stellar evidence. God, you people are just such cunts. Because you're special. So again, the argument, where have I made any argument that because I'm special? I've made the argument that, like I said, originally I went seeking a better explanation than silly Copenhagen and many worlds, and this silly idea that when a photon goes into a single slit, somehow it splits in half, creates double radar, figure out where to go, and then the ton ends up going there. I thought it was a preposterous explanation of reality, that no way that can be anything close to the truth, and it fundamentally never fit my grade school understanding of photons, which was I never paid any attention to the silly it's electromagnetic waving crap because it just sounds like absolute bullshit. It's tons at a frequency. Tons at a frequency. Why do I need to make it into some bullshit? No reason whatsoever. No evidence of a magnetic component or an electrical component. Alright, anyway. That sounds suspiciously like you say God theory to me. Okay, so you're the ones who make up bent space. I make up polarization, something we already know existed, and I simply point out that, you know, if you can filter polarization, and that's like if magnets, if you imagine a magnet is filtering the polarization, you could imagine that it could create rays that would come out, you know, segregated. So mixed force comes in from all directions, and from all directions it comes out all red at the top and all black at the bottom. And, you know, with a little bit of mixture here at these angles. But, you know, the more towards the top you get, the more perfectly red it'll be, because there's no way for a black one to get there. You have to go through the red. For a black to get there, see, there's no way a black could get there without going through the red. No straight lines. But see, at these edges, well, there are still some straight lines. So there's a mixture here. That's why the magnet's weaker here and stronger here. But you don't have, your physics hasn't produced any model. Your model is nothing. You have no explanation. Nothing. Nothing. Alright. That's a God theory. Bent space is just avoiding the question. You have to explain the inverse square rule, so you just bend this, a fake thing and say, there, fairies did it. And that's all it is. Dark matter can be shown to be just contrived nonsense. Just completely made up for no other purpose than to fix broken math. To fix a model that doesn't work. Anyway. Alright, there you me. Also, God complex. Yeah, well, fuck you. Just fuck you. Or the tons held together by a magical fairy force nobody's ever seen. That's circular logic. So again, he's just going to cling to this thing because I say that there's two kinds of force. I mean, two kinds of things in the universe. Alright, so there's these little freely moving things, and they're all going the speed of light in some direction. And then there's clumps that are similarly disposed. You know, they're moving. They have a vector, but they can't escape this tight relationship. And so because I've created that, that's a God theory. Because now I've created something the force can bounce off of. It can reflect, and it can be perpendicularly. They always reflect. But the question is, if they reflect perpendicularly, then they change something going one way. Something that was going this way. Something that was going this way gets changed in something going this way. But that's too much. That's a God theory. Bent space, not a God theory. That, God theory. The simple premise that matter is where force is compressed. And yet he's okay with this wavy photon thing that he has no evidence exists. No evidence of any magnetic photonic component whatsoever. You could take the biggest magnets in the universe and you're not going to bend a photon with them. So how do you think it has a magnetic component? Anyway. See, I just made an argument. You didn't make any argument. And based on your astonishingly rude and superficially idiotic answer, again, you're the astonishingly rude asswipe. I suppose I should conclude you're reckless. I don't care what you do. I just tell you to fuck off. You're not making arguments. You're arguing about how to argue. There's no argument here. You're not defending anything with an argument or evidence. You're just proclaiming that, you know, we can assume you can't. Instead of saying something logical, well, maybe nobody should be assuming. Maybe we should be challenged to do more experiments to find out the fucking truth. And instead of presuming things to be true. Alright, I suppose I should conclude you're a reckless shit talker that has no counter argument. Well, I have made the counter arguments. You apparently aren't impressed. Fuck off then. And to that, the fact that you lied about, fuck you, the bent space being in the math, and you lied about mock gravity explaining the weak force. Where did I say mock gravity explains the weak force? This is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. I never said, that's just a lie, idiot. It has no obligation to even mess with the weak force. Gravity isn't have anything to do with the weak force, even as fucking Einstein describes it, you fucking lunatic. And there's no bent space in the math. There's the inverse square rule, you fucking idiot. God, you're such a cunt. And you are abusive and demeaning to anybody that disagrees with you. No, you're demeaning in the sense that you can't disagree with somebody in the proper manner. You can't figure out that if you're going to go on somebody else's video and challenge the sanity or intelligence of what they're saying, that you have to do it with a certain amount of process. And you don't want to involve yourself in that process. So fuck you. I have every right to respond to rude cunts and give them what they deserve. The fucking lack of respect you came to my page with, asshole. I don't do this on other people's videos. I don't write raggy shit like you do on other people's videos. So the day I do that, then you can call me a hypocrite. But till then, fuck you! Alright. Let's see. And yeah, the fact that you lied. I didn't lie about anything. So claiming I lied about something when you're not going to prove I lied about anything is just idiotic. And again, mock gravity does not have to explain the weak force. That's just idiotic. That's magnetism, by the way, retard. And you are abusive and demean to anybody who disagrees with you. But then turn into a whiny little bitch whenever someone insults your back. I don't even know what that means. Insults you back. Okay. I guess you're a real asshole and a liar and a cheat. Yeah. Well, you're blocked, so fuck you. And then he says, Philip, I'm not interested in your pathetic bullshit, just so you know. So I don't know who Philip was, but whatever. Somebody posted a comment that doesn't show up. Philip, how about you address my point in the comment, or else shut the fuck, shut the fuck you? I don't know what that means, stuff you. Stay the fuck, whatever, I don't care. Yeah, fuck you. So I'll read the rest of your comments and then I'll fucking block you. I already explained why mock gravity fails when the collisions are elastic. So again, where did you explain anything? What is this elastic thing have anything to do with the concept? I went to the trouble of talking about ball bearings and checkers. None of these things are elastic. So how does mock gravity fail? If the collisions are elastic, so again, the rebounds cancel the force. Well, again, there's no elastic. They're not made out of Play-Doh. Things don't go in and then bounce out. They reflect. Absorption and readmission is different than a reflection. Idiot. If they're not perfectly elastic, then you get the heat problem. I'm not going over it again, but bullshit. The heat problem has nothing to do with the function of gravity. So let's say even if it did have a heat problem, which I fixed. Again, I can't say the word kinetic. Oh, I can only say it 7 million times. But if you do it by kinetic logic, there's no heat problem. Because head-on collisions, the most dramatic collision in the universe, actually are irrelevant. They're meaningless. As if they don't happen in kinetics. A thing leaves going this way, a thing leaves going this way. Just like if the two never hit each other. Where's the heat problem, retard? Heat, even as the word, can't even be used. You'd have to say some kind of thermonuclear problem or something. Because heat only has to do with the fact that you knock bits off of chemistry. And it's released as infrared radiation and other forms of radiation. So again, I've already explained, they're indestructible ultramundane particles. There is no heat problem. So at some point. Been over it, explained it, just doesn't care. Just going to ignore. You've said it 4 times and you're just going to keep ignoring it. Let's see. If they're not perfectly elastic, then you get the heat problem. There's no heat problem. All this, and I'm the one strawmanning you. No, it's not even a straw man. It's a fake lie. Because mock gravity, like I said, I can play Feynman and Glenn pointing out how it works. It does everything. Except it doesn't work, in the sense that it creates this thermo problem if you take it out into real space and you try to drive it. But it does gravity just fine. And he says that. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the fact that they call it mock gravity and they use it in university because it creates such a simple mathematical model. Why do you think they do that? Because it doesn't work? No, they do that because it does work. Fucking creep. Alright, thanks for the lecture about Patreon. I didn't know. Okay, so I'm having a conversation with somebody fucking so stupid that you thought Patreon, just out of the goodness of their hearts, raises money for people. Yeah, fuck you. I mean, you didn't know that most charities steal most of the money. You haven't heard of that. That, most charities steal most of the money and only a little bit of the money goes to the actual cause. A little harsh, but I know you're pissed off. Question. I expect a little bit of logic from people, and this happens all the time, where people just keep feeding Google, and they keep feeding all these horrible institutions that are ruining the world. And they're easy to point out, and they just keep feeding them. They keep supporting them. Question. You've mentioned free will a few times. Could you talk more about your take? I've done that on the In Mendum channel, so go there. On that debate and how it relates to your theory. Thanks. It doesn't relate to my theory. I'm saying it relates to the need of these people to keep unicorns in physics. They have to keep the magic bits in physics, because if you do physics honestly, it points to one thing. Everything's predetermined. I mean, it's just a cycle running through its process. There's no special bits. And it's all robotic, in the sense that it's all going to follow a program. There's no special source of behavior. So the behaviors are built into routines, like the weather. El Nino. These are all patterns, and these are just all what we're living out as patterns. You inherit patterns. You're not a creator. You're just a mixer. You're a fucking mixing bowl. Nothing special. Alright, then let's see. So he's going to keep on this subject. The free will thing is a red herring, probably an appeal to consequences. This is John Reynolds again. So that was other guy's comment, the Dingus guy. Sorry to be harsh on you. I saw the Reynolds name right below it, and I guess I got the... So anyway, sorry. The free will thing is a red herring, probably an appeal to consequences. No, it's not a red herring. The question is, why are you people so obnoxiously afraid of modification to your physics, especially in the context that your physics is currently fundamentally broken, and that your stupid bent space will never be molded into quantum mechanics, and your explanations, not even your physicists can agree on any of these interpretations. There's string theory, many worlds, Copenhagen. I mean, go on and on and on about all these bizarre manifestations of your completely incoherent model of reality. And why are you so glued to it? All right. He thinks if you believe in quantum mechanics, then you must also believe in an immortal soul or something. Quantum mechanics, by their definition, which is including all of this hocus pocus, infinite things inside of confined spaces, Huygens, silly notions that a thing isn't in any one position, because we can't measure it. Therefore, the one thing in the universe we can't measure is doing this stupid spooky action thing where it's in some nowhere space where it doesn't know where it is. It's obviously an appeal to consequence fallacy, but it's also obvious that he has such a strong opinion about QM in the first place. I'm the one who's defending, by the way, quantum electrodynamics. I'm defending the original quantum mechanics. Because the original quantum mechanics was really about photons and electrons and how they interact with each other. And you people turn that into this wacky bullshit that photons have all the magical powers and electrons are just stupid things that just wait for the photon to tell it what to do. I mean, you have it exactly backwards. The complex thing you make the simplest and stupidest thing in the universe, and the simple thing you make have all these magical powers of radar and bullshit. So yes, you've just gotten it. As I've pointed out, the choices you had are it's just like Benjamin Franklin from the very, all of these choices. So, which one will I call positive and negative? Every time you had a 50-50 choice, you chose badly. All right. So the cowboy, who's also going to get deleted, blocked. How's the e-begging going? So I'm not even going to bother reading the rest of the comment. Just fuck off and die, you piece of shit. I'm just so done with your bullshit. Obviously I'm not e-begging, by putting a donate button on my website, but whatever. Yeah, so go find a new sock account, asshole. Let's see. So the win by 4 o'clock, this will be his last comment that I'll read. Since it's clear that these videos are going nowhere, well, again, anybody's videos on this medium go nowhere. Show me where the rope theory guys' videos are going somewhere. Show me where anybody's videos are going anywhere. I will put forth the other 2 comments that you have not responded to here. I don't know what comment I didn't respond to. I can respond to the ones that showed up here, and I'll summarize them. Well, they'll certainly be stupid summaries. 1, if you have already said that your electric forces, again, I've made a deliberate effort in the last 2 videos to basically say that there is no electric force. So why are you implying that I didn't directly do that in the last 2 videos? And basically, I've never said anything about the electrical force anyway. It's never even wrote anything on my website about it. Because, yeah, there is no such thing. There's no electrical force. There's electrons moving. But the stuff moving inside the wire is magnetism. And magnetic forces are leaky, so to speak. Well, again, I don't know how simple can I make it. It's on the website. I mean, what I pointed out is the pressure when you have 2 things and they have ping pong balls are trapped between them, and if the ping pong ball is black, the rule is it reflects out perpendicularly, and if it's red, it just keeps reflecting. You can't understand that if something's caught and it can't get out, can't go in any other direction. It can only bounce off the red, bounce off the red, bounce off the red, bounce off the red. Where if the ping pong ball is black, it'll go through and come out perpendicular. It leaks out. You can't understand that concept without obsessing on the word leak. I'm just saying the pressure escapes. Can you understand that leaking out would be the same thing as me saying pressure escapes? And I have directly said that? You're just going to play this semantics game? Oh, yeah, you're just a royal cunt. Well, royal cunt in the opposite sense, in the sense that you're a fucking, obviously, the skankiest of dirty and vile septic cunts. Are leaky, so to speak. The same would apply to gravity. No, it's the very reason why gravity is a weak force, is because it can't, it's 50-50. So I've already explained this too. So in the perfect electron on electron trap, there's 2 electrons, it'll bounce back and forth forever. If I mix protons and electrons randomly in a structure, so now they're red, so we use X's for protons and circles for electrons. And then I let something bounce through this. The fact is that the mixture means that some of the reflections will still happen. So it's not perfect in terms of a weak or strong force in the sense of reducing pressure entirely. So there's still pressure, there's just not as much pressure. And that's the external pressure is greater than the internal between the two things pressure, because most of it leaks out, but not all of it. Some of them will actually, a black will come in, it will hit the black, bounce off, and then it'll hit another black here, and then bounce back, and then it'll hit a red and escape. So it might have 3 bounces, it might have 5 bounces, it could have some bounces. And so that's why gravity isn't as strong a force as the force that creates the attraction between, say, protons and electrons. It's not filtered. It's not a magnet. The Earth isn't a perfect magnet, and the Sun isn't a perfect magnet. It's not 2 magnets attracting each other. It's, all right, how do you say this? I'll say it one last way. It's a group of electrons and protons interacting with a group of electrons and protons. The leaking stuff happens between electrons and protons, and electrons and electrons, and protons and protons. Those things are different, obviously, than the mixed environment of Earth and Sun. That's enough. No matter how you say the tons reflect. Well, how they reflect is really important, so you want to say, no matter how you say. It's a fact that the energy is absorbed. Look, gravity is really dependent on movement. So if you just think about the movement part, you say, well, what happens when something moves? If you understand that movement means that something had to absorb force, so it had to consume it for a while. So a force was coming in towards the Earth, let's say, and the moon is over here, let's say. Okay, so there's a force coming in, and let's say the Earth is going to now move a little bit towards the moon, okay, because of this gravity. Well, what's happening in reality is this force is actually going inside the Earth and moving all the bits inside the Earth, every single bit inside the Earth. So it's inside the Earth for a very long time, moving everything just a little tiny bit this way. So say there's 1 brick power goes in. The 1 brick power has to be spread over, let's say, 10 million bricks. So you can understand, if I spread 1 brick power over 10 million bricks, it's a lot of shreds I make here. It'll be a very tiny distance that this Earth moves. So for the Earth to move a very tiny distance would consume a lot of brick power. But you can see it's consumed in the sense that it's held here for the time of the movement. So the time while it's moving, no E, the time while it's moving means it's not hitting the moon. So this force doesn't hit the moon for the amount of time it takes to move the Earth this distance. That means the force going this way isn't have any opposing force going this way. So now the moon moves this way. And what happens when it does that? That means it absorbs this force and goes through all the bits of the moon. And so what happens? Well, that means for that moment of time, this force didn't hit this Earth, which means this force coming in is stronger, which means the Earth is going to move. You get